Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mom and Tom podcast. Welcome to episode 1 of season 2. I'm Mom.
And I'm Tom. And yes, like Mom said, we are deciding to call this season 2 because, as we all know, it's been quite a long time since we last made a podcast.
Almost exactly a year.
Almost exactly a year. Before we elaborate a little bit, I just want to mention that we have an email that you can contact us at if you are interested. It's momandtompodcast@gmail.com, all one word. So if you want to just send us a message on any feedback or anything you have, that would be fun. We also have an instagram.com/momandtompodcast, again, all one word, where we post when we have new episodes. And also my sister runs it, so sometimes she likes to put other fun, holiday posts or just fun posts of anything, other pictures we have. So feel free to follow that. Now that that's out of the way, yes, it is now 2021. Our last episode we just checked was uploaded, I think, January 12th of 2020. So it's been a long time.
Before all the disruption.
Before all the disruption. I guess we just want to start out by saying that it wasn't really our intention to have this long of a break. It just kind of it just got hard. What happened is I'm still in school. I'm taking online courses, and between working full-time and taking classes, I was really busy for a few months there at the beginning of 2020, and I was just I needed a little bit of a break, but then COVID happened, as everybody knows, and just like everybody listening knows, everything just changed. It became a time of a lot of uncertainty. We honestly didn't know. I mean, everyone was learning a new, I think the way you phrased it was like learning a new normal.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know, should I be around my family? Should I be around my friends? Like, how should we do this? And for those of you who don't know, we don't live in the same house anymore.
Right.
And how we record this is we don't record it like over online or anything. We record it in the same house. I usually
we sit
come
across
over.
the table from each other.
Yeah, we're sitting across the table from each other right now. So because we have to record it in person, the way we have it set up, I mean, just for a long time, I wasn't visiting anyone. We were in our lockdown, and then just all kinds of other fun disruptions happened with my job, with everybody learning to working from home, and and it just became, I don't know, because of everything going on, the podcast kind of became an afterthought. Just because of all the craziness. But now that things are, I mean, not that things are great right now, but at least we're getting more used to the flow of our new normal. We decided, like, hey, we should try doing this again. So
we've had a lot of fun doing it. Again, Tom says, he doesn't live here anymore with us. So for one, as a mom, it's really nice to just see him and spend time with him and do something like this together. And like we said, I think everybody has just had to do a lot of adjusting in this past year. And, before we knew it, a year had gone by, which was kind of crazy to realize as well.
Yeah.
But, like he said, working from home, man, your time is different. And like you say, is it okay to be around each other? Just so much change and upheaval, really.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, getting now that it's been almost a year of this, it's funny because it doesn't really, there's some days where I feel like, wow, it's already 2021. And then some days I feel like, this year has gone by so fast, and or it's like, that COVID's been around for forever. I don't know. It's like I go back and forth depending on what we're feeling that day. It's
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are dealing with a range of emotions like that. Like, oh, cool, I get to work from home. I mean, I've always wanted to work from home.
Right.
And companies being more open to that. But then also oh, I really miss seeing my coworkers. And then it's, of course, then everyone getting hit with the sheer volume and the numbers. When you hear those numbers on the news and all the lives that those numbers represent, then you just feel the pain and the hurt, and you feel for other people that are losing loved ones, and so just a lot of range of emotions, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah. And I think we talked about before starting this podcast that we wanted the focus of our episodes to normally be on something like fun and lighthearted, because we don't want to, we want people to enjoy listening and to have it be something that's like not can take you away from.
Yeah. We don't want to increase the burden. We'd like to lighten it.
But we definitely felt like we at least had to acknowledge this, just because it's been such a crazy year that like nothing else.
Too big of an event.
It's right.
Ignore.
Too big of an event. So we did want to acknowledge that. But the other thing we wanted to talk about that's sort of related but a little bit more lighthearted is that being stuck at home, there's been a lot. People have been watching Netflix and things like that.
Just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. No, a lot more than normally would. Just
any streaming service,
Any streaming service, We were talking about how in like early April, when all of the lockdowns became very widespread across the U.S. and everything, that the numbers for like Disney Plus and Netflix and those kind of sites just kind of blew up during that time. And one of the shows that my mom and I have been into during this whole quarantine is The Crown. And so because of our like age difference and just our different interests, I will say that typically my mom and I have different favorite shows.
We have some in common, though.
We do. But what I was going to get to is that it is really fun though when we can find those shows that we both can really get into. And this is one of those shows where it's much more, it's historical fiction, so it's based on, real stories and real events that happen, which is something that both my mom and I are generally interested in. We both like history, and so seeing, and I think especially for me, I guess you can talk about this after me, but for me, the whole British royalty thing is something that I have never really learned about. Like, I don't really know much about it aside from that Queen Elizabeth is the queen.
And she has been forever.
And she has been forever. Yeah. So that's like really the only thing I know. I there's like so much backstory to how the English constitutional monarchy system works, and how just how the whole thing functions that I had no idea about. And so for me, that was one of the most interesting things watching the show, has just been learning about how their country works. And then in addition, there's a lot of episodes where they'll talk about, the focus of the episode will be on some sort of real historical event that happened, and how the British royalty, what part they played in the whole story of this, of whatever event it is. I remember specifically one of them that we talked about when we first started watching the show was the great like smog or whatever that was.
The fog
the fog. I don't remember. I don't know what it exactly is like called in like history books or whatever, but that event where there was an anticyclone in Britain, and it created this thick fog throughout the whole island, and because of the coal mining practices and things that they did, and the coal burning and everything. During that industrial time, it got stuck, that the like chemicals and things from the coal and the smog got stuck in the fog.
Yeah.
And it made it so that there was like this poisonous fog essentially, and it just sat.
Yeah, it didn't dissipate. Like
it just sat around for days.
I want to say it was like 4 days.
Yeah, something like that. And it was really interesting to watch because it was an event that I actually had never heard of before.
Yeah.
Personally. And so seeing that and just seeing the kind of impact it had on the people.
12,000 people.
That's crazy.
Died in those 4 days.
Yeah. And to see the real life reenactment of it was super interesting because, you literally couldn't see anything. Yeah. You couldn't really drive because you couldn't see
but
2
feet
in front of you.
And that was part of the problem.
Right, and that was part of the problem is people did drive. And
planes couldn't go.
No, the airports were all locked down. And but did you sort of dwelling on what I said, though, did you have any background of learning about the royalty? Or
I will be actually honest, hearing Tom say that, I was kind of thinking really the same thing. As I watched it, I realized, boy, I know it's always been around. I've always known about Queen Elizabeth, blah, blah, blah. She was queen long before I was born. Because I believe she became queen in like the early 50s, I want to say.
Yeah, because she was in her 20s.
Yeah.
Right? And she's 94 now.
Yeah. So, I mean, much longer than I've been alive. So, I mean, and I honestly, I had an idea of how their country worked, but it was interesting to expand, my understanding and knowledge of, again, how their country, you put it really well, like how their country works, how a constitutional monarchy works, and the role that the royal family does play, because I think it's very easy to look at that and say, how frivolous is that? How ridiculous is that they even just still have a royal family? Why do they have a royal family? They don't really have any power. But, then you learn that's out of ignorance, and starting to learn more about how it does work, and knowing that it's historical fiction, but again, based on historical events.
Right.
And, it's interesting. And, that whole, I don't remember. I mean, I wasn't alive when that fog happened, so I don't remember hearing about that and how devastating and how difficult that was. And, and they learned a lot from that. They had to learn to reduce their coal emissions, if you will, and all those things. But really learning that there is a role that the royal family plays, and that it, and Queen Elizabeth is quite a person. And, if that's what she's really like, I mean, of course, again, historical fiction, but
right.
She's quite a person of integrity, difficult decisions, and really trying to, think about not in terms of herself, but she represents the crown, and understanding that, not trying to grab for power for herself or for attention for herself. She's more concerned about what she represents. And you and I both talked about the way, at least, they depicted the relationship between her and Winston Churchill was quite endearing.
Yes.
And just, it doesn't look like, I don't know that she's ever had that kind of a relationship with the prime minister since. But that was really a very, that was interesting to watch, the way they really had a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah. And I did want to quick mention, as a little bit of a side note, the actors in this show I think are phenomenal. Just for perspective, by the way, for people who, if you have watched The Crown, or I guess, first of all, for people who haven't watched it, how the show works is the first 2 seasons of the show are kind of Queen Elizabeth's earlier years of ruling. She's like in her 20s and 30s in the first 2 seasons, and then the next 2 seasons they actually completely switch the cast, and to make it sort of follow the timeline. Like they get older actors and actresses to play the royal family, and the kids are grown up and that kind of thing. That's season 3 and 4. I actually have finished the show. Mom is still on season 2.
Yeah.
You're like right at the end of season 2, right?
Getting towards the end of season 2.
So yeah, she's almost done with the earlier years. And in the earlier years, Claire Foy is the actress who plays Queen Elizabeth, and she actually, I know that she won multiple awards for her role as Queen Elizabeth in that show. And I remember specifically that the clip that they showed when she won, forgive me, I don't remember exactly what award it was that she won when they showed this clip, but it was at an award show, and it was the clip of her, the episode with Jackie Kennedy, and it was when so let me sorry, I didn't prepare this exactly, but it was the scene was Queen Elizabeth had heard that at a party, Jackie Kennedy had said some not so great things about her. Yeah. And she heard it from, there was like another guy who was at the party who was across the table, and he heard all these remarks. Yeah. And so she invited this guy to come meet her and was asking him like what she said. Yeah. And the scene was basically all that was happening is he was recounting what Jackie Kennedy said, and she was just sitting there. But the way that you could, it's like it was almost like you could feel and hear what she was thinking when she was sitting there, because the way that she sat there and kind of just like, you could tell that it hurt her. It was hurting her, and that she was upset, but also she was like trying to keep her composure, you know, because she's the queen, of course. But the way that she acted that part, it was like, it looked so simple, but at the same time, you still got so much emotion from her. And I don't know, it was a really fun clip to watch. I would recommend this show to really anyone who's interested in history.
When an actor and actress can say so much with just their body language and their expressions, right, with no lines whatsoever, that's a good.
Exactly. That was the most impressive part to me, is the fact that she didn't really talk like at all during that whole segment, but you could get so much from just her face and her the way she kind of,
it was powerful.
Was sitting there like.
I remember thinking, oh, I feel so bad for her. That was so mean. Makes you, and you just, of course, we don't know how much of this really happened or is true, because there are some things that the way they're depicted, at least, for one, Prince Philip, oh my gosh, what a whiny little weasel. I mean, you just feel like he's just not very nice, and he's just big baby. And you know, it just does not depict him terribly favorably. Now, granted, it also then goes into some of his childhood. He had terrible things happen to him. Yep. As a child. I mean, just really, really rough stuff. So, I mean, you know, not that excuses bad behavior, but it provides somewhat of an explanation. But then also with Jackie Kennedy, you just suddenly kind of go, wow, she was not very nice, was she? and then Jackie Kennedy does come back, though, and provide an explanation. And then you're thinking, boy, if that's true, wow. Yeah. You know, then Jackie and John Kennedy were just wasted half the time through I'm through his presidency.
It seems like and for those of you who have not seen the episode, there's a part where Jackie Kennedy comes to apologize to Queen Elizabeth for the things that she said at this party, and she talks about that when they were on these trips, they were so tired. And so, like, because they just had so much stuff going on and so many public appearances that they at least the way that they depict it, again, I guess I haven't looked this up, so I don't know how much truth there is to it. But the way that they depict it is that they were given kind of a lot of drugs and things like that, to appear more peppy and more lively when they're visiting these foreign leaders.
And they'd be nervous, and it was like supposed to help
them calm down
and things like that.
And so I don't think it was supposed to be like nefarious, but it was like, it was a little bit like, this is kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so, that being said, Jackie Kennedy's apology, part of that was, disclosing this, that, hey, we're given these shots and blah, blah, blah. And so basically they depict her at the party, and she was, then drinking too. So she was like kind of wasted.
Kind of,
saying things that she wouldn't have normally said
is what the apology was, right? So, but yeah, that's just one episode. Again, I would recommend this show to people. It's very interesting, and I think I am actually we probably will end up talking about this show again, just as a warning, because Mom has
as
not
I get caught up.
It has not seen the most recent seasons, so I am actually very interested to see what you think of when they are older, because I honestly think in season 3 and 4, I think you'll actually like Philip a lot. He calms down quite a bit, and he
maybe realizes some things.
And I think he much better realizes what his role is, and I actually think there's a few times where he provides a very good person for Elizabeth to talk with. When she is having to make big decisions or something like that. Like he kind of becomes like the calm presence to talk to, sort of.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, I think you'll like him more, and seeing the relationship with their children and stuff evolve over time is one of the big focuses. When you were talking about her interacting with prime ministers, Margaret Thatcher becomes the first woman prime minister during season 3, I believe, at some point. And so that's a very interesting dynamic to see as well. Because, well, to say it lightly, they have very different views, but they have a lot of respect for each other too. So it's interesting to see their interactions and what ends up happening between them. So
well, that's good to hear, because I figure there's some reason that she loved, because she always talked about that Philip was the only man she ever loved, and so there has to be a reason that she loved him. And and I suppose when you're young, you're one way. As you get older, you do tend to kind of hopefully mature, and you work into a positive pattern, if you will. So I'll be interested to watch that unfold.
And for anyone who knows the actress Helena Bonham Carter, she plays older Princess Margaret, who's Elizabeth's sister, and she's great. I really like her a lot. So Princess Margaret is always kind of throughout the show been one of the most interesting characters to watch her endeavors, I guess you could say, just because it provides a really interesting dynamic between her and Elizabeth, just because they're so incredibly different from each other.
But they love each other very much.
No, they love each other a lot, and they're sisters. Right? So it's like they're really close, but they're also just so different, their personality wise. And so I think you'll continue to like their dynamic between them, and again, the actress who plays Queen Elizabeth is still great. I still think I slightly prefer Claire Foy, but again, I understand that they wanted the show to reflect what her age was and her like more what she looked like at that time, and so I understand why they did what they did.
Well, you'd think they could have done enough makeup on Claire Foy to just age her, but maybe they just didn't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
interesting.
So yeah, we've been going on for a while here. Actually, you know what we didn't mention was you wanted to mention how you actually came about watching that show.
Yes.
Just as a final little story.
We were talking a little bit about, positive things that come from, sometimes unexpected tumult in our lives. But, once, COVID hit, and like a lot of people, we were at my job, I was sent to work from home in mid-March. And as the weather got nice, I started, I was able to get off work earlier because I could start earlier because I wasn't driving into the office.
Mhm.
And I would get off work and I started walking. I
Mhm.
just started walking because I wanted more energy, and I just wanted to, I sit and look at a computer all day. So anyway, started walking, and then as the weather changed into winter here, because I was walking, outside primarily, started walking on the treadmill, and I'm walking 5 miles, so that's, even a 15-minute mile, it's still an hour and 15 minutes, so it's a long time.
Right.
So that's when I started watching Netflix, and at first I was watching I'm a fan of the original NCIS show with Mark Harmon, and I was watching old seasons of that, but then I started to feel like I think I've seen every episode and multiple times.
Yeah, we were talking about that. I think those old NCIS episodes we've all seen them multiple times at this point.
Yeah,
so.
And even if you like them, it's like enough of that. And so both my sister and Tom had been talking to me about The Crown, and I thought, I may as well give it a whirl. And yeah, that's really kind of how I got hooked. So I started watching episodes of The Crown while I was walking on the treadmill. So highly recommended, by the way. Highly recommended way to pass the time.
And it's a pretty perfect, because if you're saying you're gonna walk for an hour and 15 minutes, that's about what an episode is.
About that.
So
a little bit less.
A little bit, yeah.
It's right around. They're usually around just under an hour.
Right, they're like 58 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's
close.
It's close though. It's a pretty good way to say I'll watch one episode now and then tomorrow. Yeah.
So
nice.
it's been pretty great.
So I think we're gonna probably just wrap it up here. We've been going for a while now.
Yeah, and even though it's been a year, you guys probably tired of us. So right now.
But so I think we talked about how I think we're gonna try to make this a monthly show now, because I think with like I said, I am still taking online classes, and we still have other things going on, but I think that would be a good way for us to still make things regularly for people to listen, but also still have time for our lives.
Yeah, I think it's a schedule that'll work good.
Yeah, so we are officially calling this season 2 because it's been a long time. So we want to we wanted to say
may as well.
we wanted to say this is our fresh start, and we're glad to be back.
All right.
So I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1 of season 2. If you did, feel free to like or comment on our video, or like I said earlier, send us an email, follow us on Instagram, all that fun stuff. And we will see you guys back in February.
All right. Bye-bye.